Hi, Eily.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So sorry about
Awesome.
that. I think that immediately um, Temi left like the fact that she left the call ended the call, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but people are already joining, so we're just going to uh, take some questions from take some questions and have you answer them, and then yeah, we'll just wrap it up after your session.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do have a really hard stop at 7:15, unfortunately, and I'm
Sure.
sure other people needed to drop at 7 anyway. So
Yes.
yeah,
I really apologize. So, okay, we're just going to get in on the questions that were specifically reserved for you. Um, so, I know that you're the founder of Women Squared,
hmm
which is pretty much an organization that empowers women, right? And I mean, it's the Women's Month. So, can you tell us about what you do and the impact that you've had through the Women Squared?
yeah, for sure. So Women Squared is a community platform for women in the workplace and people that identify as women in the
Yeah.
workplace. Mostly tended towards professionals. We do have a few folks that are, in healthcare or other industries that are considered like blue collar, I guess, just through the network. But we try and create a safe space for women to come and talk about things that are usually difficult in the workplace, right? So things
Mm,
like when you have a really shitty manager, it's really hard to know who to trust in the workplace and say, like, how do I navigate this? Who do I talk to?
yeah.
How can I really bring up this difficult conversation? So we try and bring it outside of the workplace and create that safe space. We do networking events, we do workshops. We have a workshop coming up next week of how to negotiate salary and how do you work through your performance review system. And every company has a system that you have to learn, like, how to play in the system, if that makes sense,
Hmm.
because it doesn't always reflect the nuances of your personality, your achievements, your accomplishments. And as women, we tend to let others write our narrative for us, and we kind of just run with it. You know what I mean? And it's really hard for us to also talk about our accomplishments because we feel like it's boasting, and we feel like we're going to be perceived as egotistical.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all the men are doing it, and they're fine, and they're getting the pay rises and the promotions,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so it's really about, proactively planning, which is also really hard because, we're all women and caregivers and we have family and we have outside work responsibilities. How do we actually find the time? And I think that's one of the biggest barriers that faces everyone is how do you find the time to plan for your future career or future proof your skills when jobs like you want in the future don't exist yet? But that requires planning before you can actually do. So time
Mm.
is the biggest barrier. So we talk a lot about that. We have some future ambitions to build, a marketplace or ecosystem where women around Canada can promote their small business and hopefully
Yeah.
drive what we call a
Yeah.
circular economy. We're struggling right now with just like finding people who can commit because it is a volunteer organization. So
Hmm.
we've had a few members who have been with us for 18 months just leave to do other opportunities. So it's hard to find people who want to come in and build. But we are our best customers, so it's a really privileged position. And
Hmm.
I started Women Squared because a lot of women throughout COVID were coming to me when I was working at RBC, and they were all kind of my mentees coming to me, and they were all facing similar problems. And I always didn't have the time to meet with them. So I was like, why don't
Mm.
you guys go and meet with each other and help each other out? And that way, I make myself redundant, which is always my goal. So I love making myself redundant because then I can just go and do something else. So that was how Women Squared is all about. And like in the name Women Squared, it's all about building little micro wins and multiplying the effect of, and I think we talked about reciprocity before. That's the name of my other consulting company,
Yeah.
Reciprocity Group Consulting, because
Hmm.
it is just about like coming to do one thing and staying for other things. And then it's
Hmm.
like that network effect and that exponential growth. And it's all
Yeah.
about helping people unlock their potential in different ways as women and recognizing the visible and invisible barriers in front of us.
Fantastic, fantastic. I really like it. You're doing a great job with that, and that's one of the things that that has been really helpful is just this community of like-minded women, especially
Mm-hmm.
within the corporate space, right?
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. So just for those who didn't get a sense of what you do, your professional background,
Yeah,
I'm going to ask a question. So you can answer the question, but in light of answering the question, you can also please just share, your professional background with us. So the question is, what are some strategies that have worked for you to navigate the tech industry as a woman? Because I know that you've been able to successfully do this. I looked at you on LinkedIn. I was like, really good. So if you could just walk us through your professional background and tell us some of the strategies that have worked for you to navigate the tech industry as a woman.
totally. Okay, yeah. So I'll try and weave some of my experience in there, but I think I realized I'm 20 years into my career now across, 3 different countries. I've lived in Australia, which is my hometown in Sydney. I've lived in Toronto. I went to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia for a year, and then I came back to Toronto. I've also managed teams across Colombia, the Philippines, and a bunch of other European and African countries. So I think, when you're working in tech or deciding as a woman to go into tech, it's already daunting from day one before you start. The reason I pushed myself was, 15 years ago, before the future of work was a thing and future proofing and AI is going to take our jobs, I knew for some reason that my instincts were telling me, like, Eily, the job that you're doing right now, which was like recruitment, campus recruitment, you need to future-proof your job, and you need to go and learn tech, because there won't be any jobs left for you if you don't.
Yeah.
So I started learning, what is the difference between a computer science university degree and a mechatronics degree and an engineering degree and a civil engineering. Like, engineering has a bunch of subcategories. And I was like, what kind of skills are they pulling out of those degrees, right? And obviously I wasn't a uni student at the time, but I was like, that's where it starts. So figuring out, like, how to get a skills list, what are people doing, how are we solving problems, and then learning about different technologies. Because I think we cluster technology as one thing, and it's very overwhelming. It's like a mountain. What we have to do is peek under the hood and say, well, what are the technologies? And usually one technology can't exist on its own. You have to have multiple. So, over the years, I started to get working with, like, cybersecurity teams, data science teams, engineering teams, still strategy teams when we're consulting on, like, digital transformation. And that's kind of where I found my affinity. I was a very strategic thinker. I was a very high level thinker, but then I could, double click into the weeds a little bit for execution.
Yep.
But really transforming a space. And that's how I became kind of known as the change agent. Sometimes people get excited when I arrive in their workplace, because I'm bringing change, and some people don't like me. But they eventually come around when I actually can prove to them that I've done something for them and that helps their life. But, eventually you just kind of started reading articles, and I'm a very visual learner. So I actually had to remind myself on what kind of style my learning is. I used to go on Google Images, because Google Images is free. And I used to just click, like, data science, and it will show you the difference between artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing. And you can actually see visually, like, the puzzle pieces of technology to learn what it is, but also sometimes learning what something is learning what it's not. So navigating all of that, I kept just pushing myself and adding, I guess, different technologies to my resume. The last kind of 3-4 years, I specialized in artificial intelligence, and I used to sit in on data science lunch and learns, and I understood like 5% maybe of what they were saying. But it's just like learning another language. Like I'm not a coder, I'm not a developer, but I lead teams of developers and coders. And I think it's because I built an acumen around how do I translate tech to business? How do I translate business to technology? And how do I get to know what it's like to work as a developer? Like, how do I learn what it's like to work in their shoes? And I also translate design to tech to business. So I just kept adding my translation skills in different languages from different domains and disciplines. But I think as a woman, you know, there are always men in your way, and there's always men at the top of that glass ceiling who are holding the door shut before they let you through because you need to pay your dues or you're not technical enough. I think there's also a lot of women and people in general who work in tech but are too scared to say out loud, I identify as someone who works in tech. And obviously there's a huge barrier around, well, if I don't code, then, or if I don't like it, then I can't work in tech. But technology is just at the intersection of almost everything we do and will be in the future. And I'm a big believer that, AI won't take our jobs just yet, but people using AI will. So everybody needs to really think about how do we break that barrier of entry. Mm-hmm. The good thing about ChatGPT is you don't need to be coding to get an answer. It's plain language, obviously it starts in English, and I'm sure they'll add other languages, but really important to, as a woman, you just have to keep pushing through. And if someone tells you no at this path, you have to go and open another door and keep going. And I still deal with a lot of shit like that today, but obviously I'm a little bit more senior and a little bit older and wiser to push back. But they're always, I just assumed that I just accepted that there are always going to be people in your way, men and women, who want to hold you back, and you've just got to find a different door and a different path and keep pushing forward.
Thank you. That's really robust. Yeah. I'm in sync with you on that. I completely agree. And I'm going to take you back to Women's Squared, right?
Yeah.
So talking about volunteers and all of that good stuff. So SkillHat alumni from product management, business analysis, design, Scrum, software development, we have different cohorts, and, there'll definitely be a good fit to volunteer with Women's Squared, right? So if at all you need volunteers, please just let us know. And we have a truckload of, credible product managers, business analysts, and all of that can volunteer. Awesome. And in light of that question, or in line with that statement, rather, I have a question for you, which is, what are some strategies for networking and building relationships in the tech industry, particularly for women seeking leadership positions?
Good question.
To build this Women's Squared community successfully. So I think that this question is, a good one.
For sure. And I actually realized I forgot to tell you what I actually do today. So I'll tie it all together.
Okay,
so, perfect. I recently joined a global consulting company called Accenture. Accenture basically goes out and works with other companies across the Canadian economy. I mean, we're global, right? But my focus right now is Canada. So basically, I'm building a product innovation and engineering practice inside of Accenture. So it's kind of like I'm a founder again. But I'm spending Accenture's money and they're paying me a salary from day one. Mm-hmm. And when I go and pitch venture for money, it's really just internal executives who want to present me to their clients and help their clients. So we're helping, think like our client is like C-suites of like Canadian Tire, H&M, Loblaws, Sobeys, TELUS, all of the big Canadian companies. And we help them transform their organization at the people, process, technology level. For product-led growth and product innovation, and taking ideas into execution really quickly through like an agile framework. But a lot of people think product is agile, and it's two separate things, but that's a different TEDx talk for another time. But why that's important and how that turns into networking is, I feel like coming from, I used to work at Royal Bank of Canada, we don't have timesheets. We're not consultants. I was kind of like an internal consultant at RBC where I get deployed to chaos and then I would go and fix and build. But in consulting, you have to be really hungry to go and chase your work and find your projects, and you have to stay chargeable. If you're on the bench for, 6, 8 months, 12 months, eventually, they're going to say thank you, but goodbye, and here's your package. But I kind of like it because we're not lazy. You know what I mean? Like, we can't just sit there twiddling our thumbs. And I'm not saying anybody else in any other company. but we have to be hungry, and we have to go and find our works. And we're almost like mini entrepreneurs because we're constantly selling ourselves. Here is my 1-page internal resume. This is why you want me on your project. And it's really easy to be ignored in a remote setting, right? It's really easy to ignore emails and messages and things like that. So it all comes down to networking. I have always loved networking. I am a connector. I will go to my local coffee shop and help people find jobs when they didn't ask me to. I will help connect one person in the coffee shop to the other person in the coffee shop because they have a need and a want that matches, because I sometimes invade people's personal spaces and I just say hi, and I'm a very friendly person. So I think internally at Accenture, externally in my communities, it's really important that we find like-minded people, right? And I think that you have to tap into multiple industries, like find, we were talking about mentors before, find a mentor that is similar to you, but also find a mentor that's completely different to you, because you need the diversity of thought. You need to be challenged in your thinking. So following people on LinkedIn, even if they don't know you, a follow is different to a connect.
That's true.
If you do want to connect with someone, please write them a note, because I get like 50 requests a day and I don't know who these people are. And sometimes I have met them, but I meet so many people, I'm like, I need that little reminder.
Yeah.
So networking is super important. Following industry and thought leaders across your LinkedIn platforms or other socials. I'm not a big on other socials, but whatever is your jam, your Twitter, your Discords and things like that. It's really, really important. And you never know when things are going to cross over, right? So Randy Osei is the founder of Athlete Tech Group, and him and I met at a Collision Tech conference in 2019 in Toronto.
Yeah.
I reached out to him in like a year later and said, hey, I'm starting Women Squared. I want a lawyer that's not a white man in a suit. Can you help me find someone that would not be referred to me in my network? Because my network is a little bit of an echo chamber, and I really want to find more diversity representation, especially at a company like Women Squared. And then I said, oh, what are you working on? How can I help? And he's like, oh, I have this problem to solve. And we jumped into a mural, and I ended up working there the whole year, and we co-founded an app together, and the app is in the market, and it's still going strong 2 years later. And I'm still a strategic advisor there. I did have to step back as the CTO. But you just never know when you're going to cross paths with people and find opportunities in the future. So network is always great. Can be hard if you're not an extrovert like me. Like I'm an introvert sometimes as well. I need to recharge, but I do get connection and human people energy. So you just have to dig deep and keep finding those connections and find like minds and really different people. It's really important.
Thank you so much, Eily. I resonate with everything you just said. You have a hard stop, and I know you have.
I wish I could stay in chat. Maybe we could do a follow up. I appreciate the 23 people that stayed on to hear me go on. But thank you for having me. You're really great.
And thank you for understanding. We really apologize for all that technical difficulties.
Yeah, definitely going to talk to your salespeople on this platform.
Definitely.
Tell them to call me. I'll give them user feedback.
There's a lot to tell them, definitely. So thank you so much. Everyone who's joined, we're going to send you an email. We have an offer for you. It's the 7 Women $700 scholarship on our product management course. And it's open for 72 hours. You get $700 discount. It's for 7 women. If you're going to take the course, it's open for 72 hours. This offer is open for 72 hours. So feel free to reach out to us. We'll send you an email. Information is on SkillHat.ca as well. So thank you, everyone, for joining. Appreciate you. Thank you, Jeti, Temi, and Eily. Have a good one.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.